he had like a little acceptance speech for his trophy that he won, and like he told me after that speech that like I kind of wanted to say you and Romola were better than me at the game at the time.
Here I am with Daze. He is a fighting game player who previously competed in Guilty Gear Strive, uh,
Yes.
but he's also very well known for Blaze Blue and other titles, I believe. Right? I only know.
BB Tag. It's mainly the Arc Sys anime games, but
Okay,
BlazBlue was the main one. Strive for a while. BB Tag. Those are probably like the big three.
okay, yeah. But I first actually heard about you from, I want to say it was LK, it was Lord Knight and Romola, because and Hotashi, like the three of them, because I was trying to learn Strive myself, and the one thing they all said is that you always know your matchups and like you play matchups correctly, and this was back when we're talking about uber oppressive Happy Chaos as opposed to
Mm.
current Happy Chaos, or like past Nago where it was like, you know, these characters are really oppressive. How does a not Nago, not Happy Chaos deal with that? So like, I guess how do you just figure out those matchups so quick? Like how do you do that?
Mm. I think it mainly comes down, or it in big part comes down to how I think about the games that I play and how I try to achieve victory in a way that I can replicate, basically. So I typically play Shoto characters, the very standard, normal man character. In Jin, I play BlazBlue. Obviously, he's like the player two character, as you
Yeah.
will. And I think because I spent so much time playing those characters don't have like a gimmick that they can fall back on, like a really strong situation where you can just ignore harder or more nuanced parts of matchups. You have to deal with problems very directly with those characters. So I sort of built a problem solving strategy around those archetypes of characters in a way that is like honestly because they're so simple, it's pretty easy to identify the kinds of problems that you will see in any certain game, right? So if the problem is I can't approach this character, like a lot of the ways that you will circumvent that issue are very similar across those kind of characters. Mainly in anime games because you have like the super jumps and the air dashes and that kind of thing. Like the types of ways that you would move are pretty similar. I think that helps out a lot. But
Okay.
also, I think that I honestly don't think I can win consistently unless I learn my matchups. So that's always the first thing that I do. Like first and foremost, I have to learn this matchup and figure out a strategy to deal with any sort of problem.
Okay. And so that's good to know, because I guess we can use that to frame this entire interview. Because to start with, like Guilty Gear Strive, man, you just came off of Frosty Faustings.
Yeah.
You competed in Blaze Blue, but you also competed in Strive, and you said this is my last Strive tournament. So why is Strive your last Guilty Gear Strive
So
tournament? Or yeah,
I'd been thinking about this for like a couple months now, actually. Like a while back, I tweeted something like, there's a very real chance that Frosty ends up being my last hitter for Strive. I just don't think I like this game anymore. And the reasoning for that is that uh I'll talk about like the two games, BB and Guilty Gear specifically, but
okay,
as far as Strive is concerned, I think Strive is a game that focuses a little bit too much on like layer one guessing, and you get rewarded very, very highly for those guesses, and that makes the game feel very random to me. Not to say that's completely random, but it is very random, and the ways that you have to go about making the game more consistent are not things that I really want to do, and whether it be in the name of fun or otherwise, right? I think the top two, three characters are always really consistent. Like you always see HC, you always see Leo, you always see Nago. Those are like the characters, right? For you to show up and show out with characters that are like outside of that top four-ish range, you got to be kind of good. Honestly, you got to be kind of good, and you also have to be lucky as well. And luck is not something that I really want to fall back on as far as competition goes. Like if you think about this genre logically and competition logically, it makes no sense to play anything other than the best character in the game, right? But there's still a reason that people pick their favorite characters. Like, hey, Mei has a big goofy hat. I like Mei, right? Like those type of people exist, and they'll pick Mei for that. You just pick your favorites, and that is basically how it works. But if you want to win, then that becomes like a very hard choice. And I think if I wanted to like actually just outright win and think about nothing but winning, I would just play HC, right? But there's a lot of things about that character and what he does as a Shoto player, right? If you play Shotos, you probably play Shotos because you want to feel like you're beating the person, like you are beating them and not your character, right? And I won't object to that. That is definitely true. That's why I picked Jin, because when I was younger, I thought to myself, if I beat you at Jin, you can't say anything to me. I literally just outplayed you, right? That is sort of what I wanted to fall back on, and the top tiers in this game don't really feel that way to me. So that makes competing in this game feel very frustrating, and it
Okay.
just feels like a waste of time if I'm not going to pick those characters, which I really just don't think I'm gonna do.
So it's kind of like balancing the competition and like being able to have a reasonable chance without playing a character that you really hate playing and just like enjoying
Yes,
yourself.
yes. Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just it's hard. It's hard, and it's definitely a decision that everybody who competes has to make. But my decision here was to just stop. Basically, I love BlazBlue, and I still have fun with that. And that's probably what I will continue playing. Until something else that can hold my interest comes along, or they update Strive in a way that I think is like just kind of good. Like
Yeah.
they're actually making some good changes here. But until one of those things happen, it's on the back burner.
So I guess that raises a question then. If Strive is so unenjoyable, what makes BlazBlue so appealing? Because you look at them side by side and you think BlazBlue Central Fiction probably has like a level more of BS than Strive does. So why is playing Jin in BlazBlue more tolerable than Geo or Bridget or Kai in Strive?
Yeah, it's really how both of those games allocate risk reward. Risk reward is the golden rule of fighting game. Any fighting game, that is the golden rule: risk versus return, right? And the way Strive deals with it is, like Strive is a really big damage game. Like
Yeah.
you can get hit by something that is inconsequential in another game that leads to your death in that game, and it's just like the games go really quickly. Like people just explode. Like it is a very very fast game. Things like pokes leading into full combos from anywhere, like really really big juggle combos from anywhere, like this is a top tier thing, right? This is why I say these characters are very consistent. Like Nago can hit you with a 2S. That move is huge. Probably one of the most goated normals I've ever seen in a fighting game. That is a career maker normal. If you get hit by that, it is a huge poke. You can lose like 50%, like off of a sneeze, basically.
Yeah.
In other games, that's very uncommon. It's definitely not that way in BlazBlue. You can convert a lot of your hits in BlazBlue into knockdown, but it's not going to be a big combo unless you're like in a corner or something like that, right? But even if that's the case, those typically are not moves that are very easy to get hit by. It's like, well, if you got hit by it, it's your fault kind of thing. And
Okay.
that's the big reason of why I think I enjoy BlazBlue more than Guilty Gear, because I played a lot of fighting games, and there are ones that I've enjoyed and I kept playing, and there are ones that I thought like I got to a sufficient level and I was like, I don't know if I'm really liking this anymore after I like got past the initial learning curve. And
Okay.
BlazBlue is a game where uh you don't really get big damage off of inconsequential hits a lot, and guessing is not a huge part of the defense mechanic, defensive like interactions in that game. It's a lot of reactions actually,
Okay.
and what that does is the big divide between the two is that in BlazBlue, when somebody is defending really good, you're like, wow, this guy is really really good. Like he's reacting to everything. He's fuzzy jumping the right spaces. He's instant blocking where he should be. You can tell he knows the matchup and the characters, right? And Strive, whether it be a high top level player or somebody who's new and just starting out, Nago just hit 5K on defense after he blocked your 2K. Is he good at the game or not for doing that move and doing 60% out of defense, right? It's just
Okay.
like the guesses are really, really extreme. And it's kind of hard to gauge skill, like whether or not that was a really smart decision or really stupid decision kind of thing. And, some people are completely fine with that, I guess, especially if they play those characters, I guess. But it just kind of grates on me a bit. I'm just like, I don't really know. Because even there are things that I do on defense or even on offense sometimes where I'll just do it and strive and I win off of it. And it's like, I'll make a joke if I'm shooting like, man, I'm really good, huh? Like just hitting 5K on defense like and doing a lot of damage kind of thing. It's just, I don't know. It feels really extreme.
Yeah, and so I remember I tuned into one of your streams like a week or two ago, and you were talking about the dash canceling and how it got removed from Giovanna, and you were like, I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
might have done that while I was
I
at
might have
Art
had a hand
Revo.
in it. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, like, is that one of those examples of like I'm doing this thing on offense that's like kind of ignorant? Like,
Mm.
is it me or is it like what I'm doing, and it just kind of removes all the options from the opponent's like tool set?
No, that thing is specifically is actually something that I came up with and started doing because Geo did not have that. Oh, I'm just gonna do it ignorant option. I think
Okay.
like the most she did have that on vanilla, the vanilla version of this game, but then they changed the system. Soul terrified it. He literally terrified the entire play base. Let's try vanilla Soul, and I think they kind of super weakened strike throw as a concept because of him. So after that initial version of the game, because Soul and Geo were actually pretty similar in the game plan on vanilla, but after that version, it became really hard to keep your opponent super pinned down and just run it. Basically, strike throw characters in that game suffer a little bit from the guessing. Top tier characters in that game can push their turn like pretty low committally, pretty safely. Like Happy Chaos can spend resource to just be plus 20 in your face whenever he feels like it, basically.
Yeah.
Nago can do button clone, right? Just push his turn. Ram can do sword toss, do a block string, then run up, pick up the sword, toss it again. Like just loop the offense like that. Strike throw characters typically just reach the end of their string and now they have to go back to neutral and find another way in, kind of thing.
Okay.
And because Geo was that kind of character, dash cancel was sort of a way for me to force my opponent to pick something so I could hit them. So that's mainly what that was, but it still carried a lot of risk, right? It was a guessing game essentially. Because if they did just mash throw straight up, certain characters can win off of that back throw. If Zato just mashes throw and he guessed right on me doing dash cancel, back throw in the corner versus Eddie is like say goodbye. Like that's not
Yeah.
something you want to deal with, right? But yeah, no, dash cancel was definitely something that was really good for her in that regard, but it did carry its own sort of risk. There's the things that I'm referring to mostly of the just do it options carry little to no risk. Basically, like
Yeah.
sort of like I can do in parry RC on wake up because she will never get the PRC on whiff, right? Just like the throw PRC option select on vanilla. So she can just do it if you're gonna go for a safe jump, and if you whiff the safe jump, or like try to backdash away or something like that, then she just PRCs and now she's like an advantageous situation. I mean those
Okay.
kind of things basically.
Yeah. So I guess that raises a question about while you were playing Strive, you also did bounce between Kai for some matchups, and then you
Mm,
also messed around with Bridget because
yeah,
unfortunately none of your matches were streamed at Frosty. I don't
yeah.
actually know if you were playing Bridget
Yeah, I was playing
during that
Bridget
tournament. Oh,
mostly.
okay.
Yeah, Bridget and
Like,
Geo. Actually, I did use Kai for one match. I hadn't played him in months, but I did use him for one match. Yeah. Kai. So basically, those three characters. Again, for me, like everyone picks their favorite characters, like the characters that they find the most fun, while also being able to compete. If you're a competitor, and those were like the three characters for me. Geo was the character I played on release, and I just thought she was really fun. Bridget, similarly, I just thought she was really fun. I played her when she first came out. And Kai, I sort of switched to mainly as a Biken counter pick. When they buffed Biken after the first version, I was like, okay, this character's kind of crazy now. And I
yeah,
really did not, again, back to like the guessing for your life kind of thing in this game. I didn't want to guess with Parry. That move does 40% meterlessly, and then she can RC and do more off of that into set play, basically. And I just didn't want to deal with it off of every knockdown or every block string. Kai has a lot of projectile property moves in his kit. He does Oki with charge stun edge, completely safe. You can't reversal out of it. She can't do parry versus projectiles. His jump D is a projectile now, and it will hit parry because parry forces her to stand up. So if you do it rising, he'll actually hit her out of the parry startup with the projectile and get a full combo now. So I just thought he was a good counter pick for both Baiken and also Leo as well, because Leo was putting me in the abyss for a while.
yeah.
So yeah, like mainly I was just soul searching the character select for options that would allow me to keep playing Geo while also not picking the top tiers that I think are kind of gross. You
Yeah,
know?
and so like it's we come back to that issue of like I want to know that I beat you. You have no excuse. It's not I'm
Yeah,
playing top tier and all that
basically.
stuff. So how do you? So I guess with that, how do you balance passion with payout in this case? Because you're not a sponsored player. You don't have like a Team Liquid or a CLG backing you. How do you
Yeah,
balance like keeping that passion for competition, especially in like a relevant game? Because Strive is exceptionally
yeah.
popular, but how do you balance like that payout of like biggest tournaments, biggest prize pools with the passion of like, well, I love BBCF even if it's
Mm.
7+ years old and the player base isn't as big as it once was. How do you balance that?
It easily, honestly, it's never, ever, ever, ever been about me. I don't care, honestly. As far as like my money spending habits go, I've always been a saver, so money is never like super big on my mind. I move a lot for the sake of my hobbies, basically, and this is one of those hobbies. I was not born to pay bills and die, so I just do things that I enjoy. And fighting games are something that I enjoy, so that's mainly it, honestly. Alongside the fact that I really am interested in problem solving, that's one of the big drawing factors of this genre for me. What makes it enjoyable? The fact that it's not easy, the fact that you have to solve these issues, and basically you're the only person in your corner. It's not like a FPS game or a MOBA where you have like a team that you have to balance as well. It's literally just
Yeah.
you versus this problem, right? And that's sort of where my motivation has always come from because I want to see. I don't even care if I can like. A lot of the time, I don't really care if I can. If I always clear the issue, like, oh, I always beat this character in tournament 100% of the time, as long as I know that I can, right? Like, oh, I just didn't do it this time, but I know that I can beat this character because I solved this issue already. Then I'm cool with that. Like, I just want to get to the solution,
Yeah.
basically, and that's what kept me playing Strive for so long. Even though the game felt a little frustrating and kind of random for me, I was like, well, maybe there's something that I'm not seeing here. Like, I want to figure out this problem. It has to be something that I'm not seeing,
Yeah.
essentially.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where the motivation comes from.
Yeah. That's good to hear. With that, like obviously you're going back to Blaze Blue, but are you going back to Blaze to BB Tag as well, or is it only Central Fiction?
No, no BB tag. BB tag and Strive are very similar in the fact where I thought, honestly, outright, I would just say I thought both of those games are bad. I mean, I still think both are bad, but BB tag I can go back to and play casually now. But when I was competing again, I was like, yo, this is not a game you need to be playing for money. Like this game is a circus. Like the circus is fun to visit every once in a while, but you don't want to live at the circus. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not competing in this game anymore. It was fun while it lasted. I came in with some pretty cool team comps in that game. Seth 9 being one of my favorite things to play ever. Now, just in the name of solving those problems, because meta was really big in that game as well, and matchups just like Strive. But yeah, never again. No more BB tag. I can
That's
play for
fair.
fun, definitely, but no competition.
That's fair. I do have a question though, because totally ignorant when it comes to BB Tag. Is Steph Nine another RPS heavy like team, or my
No, Seth
understanding of
9
Nine and Seth was like set play, right?
Nine, Seth Nine taught me a very important lesson in fighting games, something that still stuck with me to this day. Where two things actually, BB Tag and Seth Nine as well taught me two things. One, sometimes it does not matter how good or learned you are in a genre, you will just lose to the top tier in a meta. Like it doesn't matter how good you are, what you're playing right now is just not good enough to consistently win, right? That is the one thing, which I probably would not have learned in Strive that quickly because it's a 1v1 game. Team games typically drill this lesson in pretty easily because there are just some things that are unviable. Like, you just cannot play this thing in a team game. And the second thing is that zero interaction, just I just do my thing and you have to hold it is the best thing in fighting games. That is what that game taught me. And Seth Knight is definitely a I just do my thing team, basically. And that's why I gravitated towards them because again, I started man, I do it to myself low key because I was playing Yuzu Jin at first, two of my favorite fighting game characters of all time. I actually have them on my fight stick, are of those two characters. And that team started off being really good, but they nerfed them and they nerfed them again. And the team really ended up being a team that had to interact quite a bit. And in a game like Tag, that interaction was just not worth it usually. You have one button DPs in that game. If someone usually was like a left right mix-up character, right? But if you ever saw her teleport with some characters, you can just do DP like on reaction with your one button, and they just have to hold that. And I realized playing Step 9, I didn't have to deal with any of that. I didn't have to set up a mix up by, getting behind you or that kind of thing. Like, I literally just, I call my assist and my jump, and my assist goes behind you for me, and now you're getting mixed up immediately. And like, I cover every option, right? And that's the kind of team that Step 9 is. It's an anti-meta team, though, because the way they play neutral is very, like, weave in and out and kind of just wait for your opponent to make a mistake instead of holding forward on them and just, just going in. Like, a lot of the top tier characters in that game, Adachi, Carmine, those kind of characters just hold forward on you. The name of the game is get in on them before they get in on you, right? But Step
Yeah.
9 kind of punishes you for playing that way, so they ended up being anti-meta.
Interesting. Uh, so how I guess in that case, how do you find like your little niche? Because and how do you like I guess make a play style for lack of a better term? Because Steph Nine anti meta, Geo not a top tier, and I'd say like with the dash canceling, you kind of figured out your niche with the character and kind of pushed like what Geo can do forward. How do you find that little like niche, that little spot, and that move that you make your own? How do you do that?
A lot of staring at character select. I honestly, quite literally, I stare at character select a lot, and I just think about all of the potential options and potential issues as well. In BB Tag, it was sort of easy-ish because it's very easy to pick up a character in the game. Mainly because those characters are like have they have basically like half of their moveset from their original game, maybe even a little less than that. So it's very easy to just like hop in and play a character. There aren't too many technically difficult characters in that game, right? As far as Strive goes, it's not as complex as some older Guilty Gear games, but there's still like a fair amount of things that you have to learn about a character. I think where it comes from in Strive mostly is trying to figure out what do I get hit by, what do I find annoying, and what do I find hard to defend, and try to frame that in a way, or frame that in a way that my character can replicate, or the character that I'm playing can replicate. Right. The reason that I came up with the dash cancel thing and started doing that was because I noticed the trend of the top tiers like having situations that don't basically will not stop unless you pick something. That's what made Ram so strong. Ram just tosses her sword, she does a block string, she picks it up, tosses it again, and it's not gonna stop if you fuzzy jump. Like she just catches you. If you bat dash, you get hit. Right? You have to mash on her to get out, basically. So picking the defensive option versus the top tiers usually is what gets you cooked because you can't just sit there. You have to pick something and engage with your opponent, right? And I thought to myself, like, how do I force my opponent to do that with Geo? Like, do I have anything at my disposal, like any situation that can force them to make some sort of decision that I can play around and potentially hit them with, right? And that's kind of how it happened in Strive because I sort of think back that way with all of the characters that I play when I come up with like offensive structure and like mix-ups and that kind of thing. Even with Bridget, like I try to find things that force my opponents to pick something that's not really low commit and defensive.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's actually really cool to hear because there's been more and more like layer one educational content on YouTube, but like that's
Hmm.
kind of more layer two, layer three, kind of like how do I build
Yeah.
this and how do I tune it to me. So that's really cool to hear. To close out, I've got two more subjects. One of them's a bit memey, so that'll be at the end. But
Okay.
the first one is just the FGC in a post-COVID world. Like we're back. What's
Yeah.
it like? Like, what's it changed as a player? How has this changed? Your experience of the FGC.
Not much, honestly, outside of net play actually being usable. Right, that's probably the big thing because the scene got so loud about rollback that they actually implemented it, and this does a ton for both competing and practicing because you can actually use online to practice. There was times, honestly, there's gonna be people who grew up in the scene that don't know the struggle of not being able to practice online at all because BlazBlue offline and BlazBlue online and delay based anywhere are two. It's not the same game. There are two different games, and things and tactics that are like very useful online are just not useful at all offline. And it's like sort of a shell shock when you try something that works like all the time online. Like, man, I'm gonna just do Gauntlet Hades and Ragnar. I'm mad good, huh? And then people offline overdrive on reaction and kill you, and you're like, whoa, you can actually see this on reaction, that kind of thing,
Yeah,
right? So that happened a lot in older Arc Sys games. It even happened in Guilty Gear and Persona. But in this era, like you can actually see these things a little bit. So like there's a little bit more viability to like structuring your game plans where you can actually see what can and can't be defended against reliably. So that's really important. But as far as like everything else goes, like the overarching scene and just going out to meet people, I guess, if that's what you're referring to,
yeah, a
it's
little bit. Yeah,
mainly the same. It's mainly the same because I've always been the kind of person that sort of kept my circle small and kept to myself. Like I still interact and I'm cordial to people, but I have never been that interested in the making friends side of the scene. Not
yeah.
to say that I'm like completely antisocial. Don't talk to me. Don't
Yeah, yeah.
perceive me kind of thing. But it's mainly like I said, like the motivation for me has always been problem solving and seeing if I can do it, right? Seeing how far I can take it. And that so I never joined with the expectation of like I'm just trying to make the most friends and get out there kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
that wasn't the goal. I want to win. I want to win and see how far I can take it. So I normally just keep to myself and keep my circle close.
Sweet. And I guess we'll end the serious talk with this one. How do you figure out who the best player is when there's less tournaments to
Mm,
kind of like run with? Because we do have Frosty and we do have Combo Breaker and Evo and CEO and all these events, but those are like the majors, right? Those are the super
yeah.
majors. What about the like mid-size events? Like now you've kind of lost some filler there. Like, does it make it easier or harder to tell who the
Yeah,
best
like
is and like
regionals.
who the top players are?
Uh, it's a sort of hard discussion for Strive because in my head the game is kind of like random. It just
Yeah,
sometimes it just happens to you in bracket. And I understand that as far as a tournament goes, the bigger the numbers get, like at the end of the day there can only be eight, right? So
Yeah.
even if there are like a lot of good players, say you have like 25 good players playing in a bracket, like top ranked from every country players playing in a bracket, there can still only be 8 at the end of the day, right? So I think this isn't even just like a Strive or like anime game kind of thing. It's any game in general, whether it even be like a fighting game or just, a sport or something. The best player is the one who is the most consistent, like actually. It doesn't matter if you won like the hardest tournament in the world, it's can you do it again kind of thing.
Okay.
If you're that consistent that you're just like you're always there, you're always in that top 3, top 2, top 1 spot, like consistently for a super long time, you are the best player, basically. And yeah, like that's something I've been thinking about for a long time, even because I remember when I went to Arc Rebel, I qualified for Arc Rebel, winning the Central qualifier, and they flew me out to California for the finals, and it was like me, Jonathan Tanay, Hotashi, Flash,
Yeah,
Razo,
yeah. I think I
some other
watched
people
it.
there. Yeah, that event was live. A lot of people, a lot of eyes on that one, both in Japan and in general. And I remember after Otashi won, he told me like because this was like I was on a bit of a winning streak versus Otashi like in tournament at that time, whether it been online or in general. I was just kind of like I figured out the matchup basically, and like I was just kind of cooking up. And
Yeah.
after he won that tournament, like we were kind of talking. And one of the there was kind of like a studio that we were at basically where they
Yeah.
hosted us, and there was like a back room area, and we were in there talking, and he was like he had like a little acceptance speech for his trophy that he won, and like he told me after that speech that like I kind of wanted to say you and Romola were better than me at the game at the time because like we were both I assume Romola was also kind of like running the Nago gauntlet
I
for a
think
while, so he
I
was kind
think
of
she
just like
was. Yeah.
yeah. And like he wanted to say that, but I told him like you are the most consistent. Like it doesn't matter if I can beat you. It doesn't matter if I can beat the champion if I can't beat everybody else, right? And that's like the
Yeah.
main divide between me and like other champions and stuff because there have been people who won tournaments of this game that I've beaten, but that doesn't mean anything at all, honestly, because they are way, way, way more likely to just win the rest of the tournament than they are to just lose to Milia. Like
Yeah.
Milia just popping up out of nowhere and ruining the bracket. Like I have my share of issues, whether or not it be like a personal issue or just like a character issue, whatever it is, at the end of the day, I'm not the one winning, right?
Yeah.
So, that the most consistent player is the one who's the best.
Sweet. So I guess for like this kind of era, I guess you could say like Tempest is the best because he's
He,
done so
he,
impressively.
he definitely is. And I think that's been a thing since BB Tag, even because we both played that game as well. That's
Oh, okay.
honestly, me and Tippus go way back, actually. We've known each other for a long time. I'm not gonna put his old PSN name out there, but we both started playing fighting games in BlazBlue at the same time. So I knew him before he was Tempest. And yeah, like around BB Tag era, that's where he started cooking, actually, because he became a champion around BB Tag era.
Oh,
That BB Tag was his first championship game. I think he won CEO was his first major tournament that he won. He won CEO for VV Tag, and he was just on a tear. Like very few people could stop him in that game. I think it was like Shinku, who was actually the one winning every tournament for the most part. Ended up winning the Arc Revo finals, I think, too. So
okay.
yeah, it was just like Shinku, basically just Shinku, and nobody else could stop Tempest. He was kind of just out here. But yeah, like as far as Strive goes, like he's shown consistently that he is going to be like in that top 2, top 3, top 1 range, right? So for most intents and purposes, you can say that he is just the best. All right now.
All right. Sweet. And to cap off, because your name is inspired by it, we're into the meme territory now. Because
Uh-oh.
your name's inspired by it, and you kickstarted me actually finishing the damn thing. I want to talk a little bit about Kagero Project.
Yo, Kage, let's go.
Because for those that don't know, Daze's name or his Twitter handle, Let's Daze, is from the opening to the anime, which is part of this multimedia project, also known as the Kagero Project. So I
Yes,
wanted to
yeah.
just some lightning round, some quick questions, because
Mm.
I like the thing too.
Yeah. You love to see it. Love to see it. I'm glad that the name actually got some people into it. I used to make some combo videos back in the day with Kage Pro music, and like
Yeah,
different people who came up to me in tournaments like, "Yo, thank you for those CMVs. They actually got me into Kage Pro," and I was like, "Weird, let's go."
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think you got me into it because I watched the anime back when I was like in middle school or something. And I was like,
yeah,
this doesn't make
yeah.
sense, but I like the
And
music. The music's
I was
good.
the same way. I was the same way. Like I started it. It made no sense. I met somebody in like junior year of high school who had like a Kage Pro phone case or something, right? And we
Oh,
started talking about it, and because I recognized the character from the show because I watched it a while back, and he put me onto the music. He was like, I know the anime makes no sense. You have to try the music, and I was like, okay, bet. And I tried the music, and I never looked back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I guess first off, what's the origin of the handle? Like I kind of spoiled it, but like why pick Let's Daze as a handle? I guess.
Honestly, it's because Kage Pro has done a lot for me, or it's inspired a lot for me. It's the reason I learned Japanese. Also, the reason that well, honestly, it's probably the reason that I stuck with Japanese. That's probably the biggest one, actually. The music. I am someone who's very into like literature and like language.
Oh, okay.
English was always my favorite subject, growing up. I've just always really been into language in general. And there were some things that I could pick apart from the songs that didn't really make sense to me. And I'm like, I feel like there's some things getting lost in translation here, right? So I always want to learn multiple languages. I'm on my second language right now. I want to learn
Oh,
three at least, but mainly because it's a flex. Like if you speak three
yeah,
languages, that's a flex.
it
So
is.
I'm trying to get like that. And while I was in high school, I was like, I actually do want to sit down and actually learn this language or learn a language, right? So because I'm into Kagepro right now, it would be better for it to be Japanese, basically, because I actually use it for something, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, it inspired me to do that, and also it really got me into like that genre of music as well. So shout outs to Jin for that. Shout outs to Jin for Kagepro and getting me into the genre. But yeah,
yeah.
that's mainly it. It's something very close to me.
So talking about the music, what's your favorite
Yeah,
song?
Lost Time Memory, free.
That's a good
Free.
one. That's real good,
That
dude.
song's goated. I love guitar as well, right? And Jin probably put me onto also maybe growing up with playing Sonic games with Crush 40 and all that kind of thing.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
rock was something that I didn't pay that much attention to until Kage Pro, but once I got into it, I was like, wow, this is great. I love this, right? So like
yeah,
the opening riff of that song is just something that I would never forget. Like first me hearing that song for the first time I was like, wow, that's
yeah.
crazy.
I think every time I hear like just the guitar hit, I'm just like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, this is
yeah.
a
It's
spicy
crazy.
song. I like
Yeah,
this.
yeah, it hits hard. It hits hard for sure.
Yeah. And then just to close out, favorite character like from Kage Pro.
Favorite character.
Yeah.
I am probably it's probably Keto. It's definitely Keto actually, but because my stream mascot is technically NA, I will say it is one of those two. It's either NA or Keto.
That's
A lot
fair.
of my like overlay gifs and like notification animations and all that kind of stuff is NA. Like basically that joke is that she's running the stream. She
Yeah.
is running the stream. Like she is in the cyberspace, running the stream from the background kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So she's also in a lot of my stream overlay stuff, right? But yeah, it's either Keto or NA, one of those two.